Good evening. I will assume, based on your presence, that it is now 60 degrees outside. Guess not. My name is Evelyn Ellis, and I'm a member of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Celebration Committee. I'm also the Vice President of Institutional Diversity and Equity here at Dartmouth. It's my pleasure to open an evening of celebration, a reflection, and growth for all of us. But first, I want to thank the Mlk Committee, which is formed by people all across campus representing all of the academic and non-academic units, and also the departments that also sponsor programs as part of the Martin Luther King celebration. So could you please help me thank the committee and the departments who are supporting us. We always start this celebration with an incredible Dartmouth student. It is my pleasure to introduce to you this year's student speaker, and her name is Demi Scratman from the great class of 2020. Demi Scratman is currently a senior at Dartmouth. She's majoring in government and minoring in Middle Eastern studies. She is an energetic leader, spreading compassion and authenticity all across campus. At Dartmouth, she is the president of Dartmouth's Afro-American Society, the National Pan-Hellenic Council, and Black Girls Are Magic Club. She also serves on the Council on Student Organizations and is a proud member the Xi Lambda chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. In addition to her involvement here on campus, Demi has an intern at the White House in the World Bank Group, pursuing her dreams of becoming one of the greatest U.S. diplomats. Please join me in welcoming Demi to the stage.
Wow, that was the introduction. So I'm going to be honest, I didn't know what would be more impactful, to open with a story or a fact. So in the Dartmouth fashion of overachievement, I chose both. So here's the story portion. A month ago during winter break, a conversation between my little sister and I prompted an interesting question. In a puzzling manner, she asked me, "How did you survive college for 4 years?" She's a freshman in high school right now, so 4 years is just so long to her. She doesn't know what she has up next. So I sat back for a moment and I really thought, how did I actually do it? And after sitting on the question for a moment, I realized I pushed through one of the most challenging periods of my life, like anyone else that faces adversity. I did not have groundbreaking big sister advice. Instead, it was pretty basic and simple. I told her, like anyone facing conflict, I relied on the people around me for strength, which leads me to my fact. No man is an island. In the spirit of this year's theme, Rise Together, we must remember, no man is an island, not even Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Today, we should not only recognize King as an individual, but the people, communities, and civil rights ecosystem that fostered an end towards racial segregation. Understanding King was an essential piece to a larger puzzle, provides us with a framework to tackle the issues facing our country today. It is no secret that our country's social fabric is currently being tested. During times of heightened discrimination, hate speech, and political polarization, we have to rely on one another more than ever. Coming together as an operating unit is not an option, but a necessity for solving these complex matters. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. understood the importance of togetherness when it came to social change. King once said, and listen closely because I don't want you to miss out on some of the important details of this quote. Are you ready? Okay. The quote is, "We cannot walk alone," end quote. 4 words with infinite meaning. We simply cannot walk alone. During times of struggle, we cannot walk alone. King did not walk alone on Bloody Sunday, and we cannot expect to walk alone while fighting against police brutality or inhumane treatment of people at our borders. We must stand together, we must walk together, and we must fight together. One voice is beautiful, but what about the power of an entire choir? These problems require skills from every individual, not a selective few. Everyone is valuable, and everyone has potential to shape the world in order to make it a better place. The most successful change comes from successful coalition building. Connecting with friends, strangers, allies, and even enemies lays the foundation for a successful moment towards social betterment. King couldn't walk alone during the 1960s, and we can't walk alone in the 2020s. That sounds weird. When we look out into the world, there is a lot to be done. We cannot look at these challenges with fear in our eyes or in our hearts. Instead, look at the person next to you, or turn to your little sister and say, "We cannot walk alone." Thank you.
Thank you. How quickly the months pass between our annual celebrations of the birth of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So much has happened since our last gathering that I was simply overwhelmed when Kara Wakefield requested the annual statement that would be shared on our web pages. Where would I start? What could I possibly say that would get you in a place of peace so that you could relax and enjoy the events occurring over the next few weeks, yet leave each event eager to be active participants in the change we need in our community, in our country, and in our world? Fortunately for me, our theme this year is incredibly inspiring. Rise together. As I thought back over the past 12 months, I was reminded of all the days in which I sensed that the American belief in democracy was weakening, and some days I felt like it was dying. As I witnessed the continuous struggles of poor people, immigrants, young and old, people of color, Jewish people, Muslim people, gay and trans people, sick people with no health insurance, and the list goes on. I could not help feeling despair, sadness, loneliness, and sometimes honest anger. Fortunately for me again, I was born into a family of Southerners who do not suffer pity parties for any length of time. Mourning, self-care, nurturing oneself, and caring for others are all very much respected, but no long drawn-out pity parties. So each day I picked my spirits up, I brushed them off, and got back to the business of making a difference in any way that I could. Each day that I pulled my own spirits up, I felt the spirits of others rise with mine. We're gathered here to help each other rise above whatever challenges you have faced this past year. Rise above any losses you and your family have suffered. Rise above any fear you have experienced. Rise above any doubts that you have had that we are a nation of diverse collection of people from all across the world. We gathered on these shores through many different paths but we are here now as Americans. We are still Americans with connections to people from all over the world. Our love of these people is as strong as it has ever been, and no negative guidance from anywhere in the country or at any level of the leadership will destroy that love. As the negative conversations continue around separation and isolation, we will congregate around inclusiveness. As the discussions continue around borders and walls, we will congregate around bridges. As all of the isms find freedom and poisoning our national conversations, we will congregate around humanism and the rights of all living beings to find their place in the world, establish home in that place, feel safe in that place, serve whatever God they choose in that place, and love and marry whomever they choose in that very place. These are the conditions that will ensure that we rise together. To help us start that rise, we have our 2020 opening King speaker, and I will introduce her to you. Kianny Antigua is a senior lecturer of Spanish. She's a translator and a fiction writer for both children and adults, and a poet. She has published 10 books of children's literature, 4 of short stories, 2 collections of poems, a novel, an anthology, and a book of microfiction. She has won more than 15 awards, including first place at the International Latino Book Awards for Most Inspirational Children's Picture Book, Bilingual. In 2016, she was the honored writer of the 13th Book Fair of Dominican Women Writers. Many of her texts have been included and published in anthologies, literary magazines, newspapers, and textbooks. Some have been translated into English, French, and Italian. Please, please join me and welcome Kianny to the stage.
Gracias, Evelyn. Buenas tardes. Good evening. Silence. It can be pretty uncomfortable, right? When I was presented with the honor of being standing here in front of you tonight, remembering and celebrating one of the most extraordinary, just, and courageous men, a master of words, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and of course, after freaking out, I thought of silence, the power of silence, what silence does for me and for others, silence in today's world. And then I ask you, students, professors, members of this community, friends. Quote, "Silence is necessary for listening and especially hearing what others have to say. There can be no learning and no change if we don't cultivate the skill of being listened when our impulse is to speak." Mary Coffey. If people were to listen, I would tell them to take this moment to reflect and to analyze the world around them in silence, to listen, to touch, to smell, to try look around and see what is happening to our world. I would tell them that silence can be both a good and an evil. A good because it allows for reflection, but an evil because it's being used as a tool of oppression. Juan Quiñones. In the Western world, we demand, pride ourselves in, and value our right to speak, while in the East, they reserve the right to stay silent. I think we can learn more about others and thus have a better world if we listened more than we spoke. Kaiselin Alfredo Montaz. Whiteness silences Black and Indigenous people daily. Whiteness silences trans bodies and their rights. The words we don't use, the air between our power and our doubt is killing an entire generation of people that need paramount words from privileged bodies. Sharona Henderson. Silence can be defeating and suffocating. There are people who are forced to be silent, and for their own safety or out of fear, dare not speak. There are people who can speak, yet they choose to be silent on matters where this very silence crushes and undermines those who cannot speak. Injustices multiply and magnify in silence. Odalis Hernandez Medrano. End of quotes. Thank you all for your invaluable, kind, and necessary words. Later, we can talk more about silence. But let me add that I think silence is not the opposite of noise. It's the opposite of action. And on the other side of action, and on the side of action, are words, written, spoken, intended. You see, it is clear to me that I don't deserve to be standing here in front of you. I don't deserve this stage, nor your attention. But I'm happy as hell I have it. The thing is that I am not a famous personality. I am not a social influencer. I am not a comedian. Heck, with 4 jobs, I can barely be a good mother sometimes, or pick up the phone and call my grandmother. But I am a writer. I write. I use words, written words. I need words to represent my thoughts, to help me breathe. I understand how critical and necessary words are, and how powerful is their significance. We seem to have forgotten that before, the most valuable thing a person of any economic status had were their words. As Evelyn mentioned, I write both for adults and children. And lately, my writing career has inclined towards writing and publishing for children. And thinking about it, everything sums up to one reason. I believe that if I am going to make any kind of change, I have to begin at the beginning. Sounds crazy, right? To begin at the beginning. about 3 years ago, I wrote and published a tiny book, which I meant to bring, but I forgot, so it's called Greña, Crazy Hair. When doing so, I had 2 objectives in mind. One, I grew up in a society that mostly detests its blackness, And for the longest part of my life, I was bullied by everyone, including family members. People would tell me that my lips were too big, that my forehead was too wide, that my hair was awful, distasteful, and bad. Yes, bad. Malo. Pelo malo. So of course I wanted to change it. I wanted to look different. I began relaxing my hair, and when I was 12, and I would do everything in my power to go to the beauty salon every week to keep it straight. And then I grew up and I realized that I was just trying too hard. Now, reason number 2, what really, really hit the spot was when my daughter turned 2. My precious, fierce, brilliant, and astonishing daughter was born with black and straight hair. And little by little, it began to change into the beautiful copper curly hair she has now. And listen to this. People will tell me, what happened to her hair? It got damaged, meaning it got curly. That's when I decided I had to do something. I was not going to allow my daughter to go through the anguish I went through for not liking myself and trying to change my appearance to fit in and to be accepted in a patriarchal, colonized, and very messed up society. So I began reading about the subject, doing research about natural hair, which, if you don't mind me asking, why natural? As if we had to continue reminding people that it's a different type of hair. No? Words. Well, to my surprise, that society where I grew up has not changed, and it is not exclusive to my homeland. Moved by the sudden awakening, I opened a group on Facebook called Ni Malo Ni Bueno, referring to the way we Dominicans call curly hair pelo malo and straight hair pelo bueno. I began a campaign both online and in newspapers, giving talks about diversity, self-love, acceptance, etc. And then it came to me, why not writing story for children and begin there in the future? We have to start at the beginning, at the core of it all. And it all begins with words, with the use of correct words. There is no such thing as non-consensual sex. It's called rape. Underage sex is called rape. We cannot eradicate racism using the word racism, because what that implies is that there is more than one race besides the human one. There is ethnicism, colorism, or as Estrella, a wonderful woman I met last week, would call it skinism. There is also culturalism, nationalism, classism. There are superiority complexes. There is fear, and there is hate. But different races? Well, sure, if you're talking about E.T., Star Wars, or Star Trek. You can't tell a child, boys don't cry, and expect that he will grow to be a sensitive man, capable of expressing his emotions, a master in coping mechanisms, that when he loses his temper, he's going to have the tools to hold his fist. He's going to be able not to pull the trigger. We can't continue saying something is gay when we want to say it's lame or weak. Have you ever read a newspaper article titled, "A heterosexual man killed his wife"? You can't tell a girl she's a princess and expect she's going to grow to become a confident individual when all freaking princesses on books and TV shows are just waiting for a prince to come and rescue them. Words. In Spanish, for example, I have to refer to you, this audience, in masculine, regardless if the majority of you are women. People would argue that it is practical and that the purpose of language is to communicate. So my question is, what is it communicating? That women are invisible? That I am invisible? That I am not important enough to be mentioned? Isn't language supposed to reflect people's culture? Aren't cultures supposed to influence societies? Shouldn't women be represented? Isn't it time? What on earth can be more important to a bunch of men in the Real Academia de la Lengua? By the way, did you know that only 7 women, compared to over 1,000 men, have sat down on the 46 armchairs of the Real Academia de la Lengua, the Royal or Real Academy of Language, since its foundation in 1713. 7 women in 300 years, and people tell me I should use my time and energy in a more urgent matter. What they don't see is that when I talk about hair, I am not just talking about a bunch of fiber of different textures, length, strength, and color attached to our heads. I am talking about centuries of discrimination. I am talking about job opportunities, money, diversity, acceptance, respect, self-love, freedom. When I talk about words, I am talking about culture, behaviors, triggers, inequality, exclusion, which is the opposite of inclusion, injustice, even murder, especially and more importantly, feminicides, murder. According to the United Nations, quote, a staggering 1 in 3 women experience physical and sexual abuse, end of quote. Violence against women and girls is among the most widespread and devastating human rights violations in the world. But much of it's often due to impunity, shame, and gender inequality. Most of it is due to a systematic oppression that has become too comfortable at pointing fingers on the wrong direction. In the Dominican Republic, for example, between January of 2010 and November of 2019, over 1,800 women were killed, putting the country on the top of the list of feminicides in Latin America and the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic is also number 1 in teen pregnancy and matrimony. And what I'm going to say may sound extreme to some, but you can kiss the bride. It's not equal to you can kiss each other. And when a man gives you to another man in matrimony, does not leave a lot of space for interpretation. In today's world, women are still seen as belongings, where the president of this First Nation itself measures women not by the content of their character, but by rating us from 1 to 10 and by the length of our legs. It is time to change the subject, to change the discourse, and to give value to our words. And probably no one has done it better than one of ours. Yes, Melissa Padilla, who in collaboration with other amazing students and a team of the coolest and most caring faculty members and librarians such as Jill Byron and Doug Muddy. Are they here? No? Yes? I love you guys. Created not only a documentary, but they literally changed the subject. Alien to undocumented. A single word capable of altering perspectives, of changing our present, and with words and action, bettering our future. Because it is just fair to say that it's not only about words. It's about what should I do? It's not about what should I do, it's what can I do? And take a step. Another example of wonderful people taking steps here amongst us is Patricia Patti Hernandez, who uses words, music, and performance to humanize human beings that, due mostly to lack of privilege, have been incarcerated, beaten, and abandoned by a system again and again, and therefore have lost their sense of worth. It is criminal, Patti. It is criminal, Carmen. We must stop repeating the same nonsense, teaching our children that skin color means a different race, that hair type means social status, and that social status defines what us as human beings deserve and are entitled to. The other day, I was listening to the radio, and I heard a song that said, "Your heart is black." Sorry. Then in my head, I changed it to, "Your heart is white." I am sure some of you automatically thought, but white is not bad. Don't worry, I won't ask you to raise your hand. And if you do, I cannot see a thing here. So, it is what we have been said, taught, conditioned to. It's about the power of silence and words. So my question to you is black by definition bad? And if so, what exactly have we learned? In the book Homo Deus, Yuval Noah Harari talks about the past and why it is important to remember it, not solely so we don't repeat the same mistakes, but so we have more options. So which options do we have? Continue to go back to the times when America was great for just the privileged, or to try to make a society built upon pillars of respect, and love. Or in Miranda's words, love is love, is love, is love, is love, is love. I have never considered myself a political person, but children in cages is not politics. Hate is not politics. Bullying is not politics. Holding 900 people in a facility with 125-person capacity in Texas, humans calling other humans invaders and throwing battery acid on their faces, Wisconsin. Letting Puerto Ricans die is not politics. It's cowardice, it's fear, it's hatred, it's the opposite of greatness. It is undoubtedly the opposite of love. Or is it all politics? Has it always been politics? Let me tell you a short anecdote that took place 1,168 days, or 3 years, 2 months, and 12 days ago, but no one is counting. I was teaching Spanish 15, which is Spanish for heritage students, with a creative writing component. The day after November 8th of 2016, I was so deeply broken and so profoundly afraid, I couldn't leave my office at the basement of Dartmouth Hall to go to the classroom on the first floor of the same building, a few steps away, just a few steps away. I couldn't move. I had no words to face my students and tell them hatred had won. And now I was afraid for them, for me, for my daughter. As a way of coping with the fear of the known, I became a junkie of Star Trek, both The Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. In order to keep my mind from collapsing, I had to envision, to imagine and see a world where people respected each other, where species from all the galaxies work together on accepting each other's ways, traditions, and beliefs, where no one was left behind. That was my cure. And it also became my dream. Before I conclude, I would like to read a poem of a very talented and strong woman, Rosalina Benjamin, which was originally published in Spanish in a collection of poems titled Esta orilla de la rabia, This Edge of Rage, by Editorial Anticanon in 2019. The poem is titled Isabel Against Silence. Do you hear it, Isabel? It's your silence. When you stay quiet, all things sleep. And then the world is this: Isabel and the earth dreaming, and the huge belly of heaven going down and up to the beat of its loud snorts. Isabel and the sleepwalking sea, bringing her snowy fabrics to the sand. Isabel and the sleeping stones, the sleeping flowers, the frogs belly up, slept. In the sleeping currents, the birds, the sun, the indomitable roads, the bridges, everything sleeps. To a doubt under the mantle of your silence, Isabel. Ah, Isabel, and the sleeping things. It sounds beautiful, but no, don't be quiet, Isabel. If the earth falls asleep now, it will have nightmares. Don't shut up, Isabel. Name the things with inventions that come from your lips. Summon the noise of everything and make a tornado that lifts the streets from sleep. Do not shut up. No, never. Because to wave your voice, Isabel, we had to unravel the rage and fray and anguish of many Aidas, Simones, Sapphos, Virginias, just to activate the bell that vibrates in your throat when you speak. The righteous monsters of so many Juanas, Hipatias, Minervas, Maria Teresas, Patrias, and Abigailes were slaughtered, Isabel. Which malicious being have told you that right to silence? Jamás. We have already been silenced more than enough. Silence is not a privilege, Isabel. It's a punishment. Brava, Isabel. Snap your tongue and throw your granite sentence against this dreadful quietness. Declare war to this malignant silence that tames us. Open the fire with a wide word that will explode the middle ear to the apathy that is diminishing us, sweeping us like ants. Don't shut up. Make possible the forever awakening of the birds, the darkest and strongest, the most subtle and tender, to accompany your voice with their tweets and trills, which would rumble, upsetting bad consciousness of recent centuries. Your voice that would remove and demolish the foundations of hatred and laziness. Speak, Isabel. Say what you want, blasphemy or blessing, but don't stay quiet. Because your voice keeps the light on vigil. And if you stay quiet, Isabel, if you don't sing, if you don't speak, if you don't protest, if you don't denounce, if you don't say, if you don't scream, without remedy, we would all turn to shadow. Silence in today's world is a mask, an intolerable mask. Let's take off the mask. Let us rise together. Because only together we shall overcome. Let's change the narrative. And why not, Dartmouth people? Let's make a positive change in the world. This one, the only one we have. However, if you use words to give alternative facts, to promote hate, to discriminate, I don't care who you are, you might as well stay quiet. If, in your case, silence is terrific and great. Thank you. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you. This time we get to have a discussion with our wonderful speaker. And just a reminder, because we want to get in as many questions, and I do hope you have some questions. Keep the question brief. I'll try to do the same when I ask my opening question. Ask it in a form of a question. I'll try to do the same when I start my question. And out of consideration for others, try not to do the multiple question thing. And as I identify you with a question, a mic will come to you so that all of us can hear you. And even if you're a person who feels, I can yell, please take the mic so that we can all hear. So if you're okay now, I'll bring you right back and we can get talking.
Now I can see people.
Did you have the same, can you hear me? Did you have that same thing going on? I couldn't see anything except his hair.
Thank you for being there.
For being there, because everything was dark and we couldn't see you, but occasionally someone would move and I think, yeah, they're out there still. So the way that we start this is I get to ask a question first because I'm on stage, and then I may ask a second question, but then I will get some questions from you, and we take it from there. So here is my first question. At what point in your life did you realize I am definitely a writer?
You know, it takes a while. It takes a while. You write, you feel the passion, you feel the urge. But then you read somebody else's book and you're like, damn, I'm never gonna get there. I'm not a writer. So I honestly don't know if there was a pivotal time, like if it was a moment that I said, okay, now I'm a writer. I believe I am because I need to write, because I have to do it, but I don't know if I am a writer because other people read my things or they consider me a writer. I know that I am, I guess, in the metaphorical side of the thing because I needed to survive.
Follow-up to that. I'm not cheating. This is not a second question. This is a follow-up to the question I just asked. When I got your book,
Greña.
Oh, yeah. And I read it, and then I responded. And I'm not sure if my writing jumped off of the email because I was just so thrilled about if you haven't read the book about hair, and I know it's a children's book, but I strongly suggest you read it, especially if you have hair like my hair. It really could.
I'm sorry, especially if you can read. No, because it's not about curly hair. I mean, like, we grew up with books that we did not represent us, and we read them and we enjoy them, so why not the opposite?
Yes. But I was so excited that I wrote you, and I hope I exhibited my excitement, my joy.
Indeed.
When you get that kind of response, does that help confirm that you are indeed a great writer?
Okay, she wants me to say that I'm a writer, right? It makes me feel happy. Does that make me a writer? Okay. It does. It does. It makes me very, very happy to see that people read what I write and that they enjoy it and that they identify and yeah. Thank you for reading me.
Okay, it is your opportunity, and I'm going to suggest you jump right in because I have other questions. And there's a mic floating
Over there.
over there.
Wow.
And you don't need to be a writer to ask a question.
You see, Doug is there. Hi.
How many other writers do we have? See, now you're making me curious. How many other writers? And don't be shy, please.
I see two up there. I see two up. Three.
Yeah,
Carmen,
I see
three.
Writer, and I don't want to pick on you, but you did raise your hand. How do writers, let's just, in general, how do writers reach out to other writers that they don't know and encourage them to write or even talk about your writing? Do you just communicate with each other? Just say Upper Valley writers. Can I say that? Do you communicate as a community of writers about what you do and why?
I'm going to say not about what we do and why, but we do reach out to each other and ask for help, mostly. Or give them compliments after we read, like the same thing you did. You know, I read your book, I like it. I didn't like this one. We also are very critical to with each other. But I don't, in my experience, I don't remember saying I'm doing this. I mean, we understand. It's kind of understandable why we do it. Mm-hmm. It's a passion that we share. So I don't think it needs explanation. I think we just go with the
Writers
flow.
write.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But I don't know if they, yeah.
Question?
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell us about a time that you did not write something down and wished you had?
Oh, probably every night. Actually, this afternoon with President Hanlon, I was talking about how I probably contradict every other writer out there because most people believe that you need to sit down every day and write, you have to bring the writing to the paper. I do not work like that. Unfortunately, I am a weird creature. And I am very impulsive. So to me, it's whenever it comes, then I write. And that could happen anytime. That could not happen for a long time. And it doesn't matter to me because the way that I see writing is as a gift. And when you get a gift, you don't complain. You just say thank you. So if I write 3 short stories in 1 week, I am the happiest person around. If I don't, I am just a cool person around. I don't, it's, of course, this is different than when you're writing under commission. That's a different story. But writing for pleasure, it's writing for pleasure.
I saw another hand, and I think it's you, and I saw you.
There.
And I see you, but someone else needs to do the.
My question is about when do you know that you are done with a poem specifically? When does it feel like it's cooked, it's done, I'm done with it?
With a short story, I can never go back. It's like, oh, I'm done. That's it. I'm over. I cannot. And people will read it and say, but you know, you need. I think you need to develop. No, I don't. I cannot look at it anymore. But with a poem, I have to come back and come back. And with a poem, it's more a feeling. I need to feel the musicality. I love when I write a poem. I love to ask people to read it to me out loud. I usually ask Casey or Mia or whoever is around, because then I can hear the poem instead of me repeating what I already know is there. So when I hear it from somebody else, then I'm like, okay, I know where I'm going to change. So it's a constant. And a poem can be edited and added and added endlessly. You know, every time you read it, you probably feel differently, and you change one word and you change the other one. So it is a constant work in progress.
That's very similar to music.
Yeah.
The feel, you know when it's right, and you can feel that. You can hear it, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm pointing to you. I think I'm pointing at you. At least I'm trying. It's like 6 rows. Yes. And then I know we'll go over here and then back over here.
And over there was another one. Kim.
I can't see over there. Sort of.
I'm interested in your teaching method. If you have a creative writing course, am I correct?
Usually I teach language, but I do teach once a year sometimes class with a creative writing.
Yeah. Do you use prompts and political prompts?
Well, in any class that I teach, even if it's Spanish 1, and I'm teaching, I don't know, about good morning, buenos dias, you know, just the greetings. I want to connect with my students. I want my students to feel that not only that they're part of the class, but that we are part of the world. So I try to incorporate as much as I can from the everyday things, you know. We talk, we have conversations, we talk about culture, we talk about, is there any students of mine here? Yeah, no. Oh, hi, hola, Katie. Would you answer that question, please? No? A microphone, yes.
Okay, I've been thinking about this the whole time you were talking. So, yes, she does incorporate a lot to think about a wider cultural experience. So there was this one particular conversation that I've recurringly had because I thought it was pretty powerful, and it was about like what our words mean and like how different languages can make you perceive the world differently. And It was a lot about how we look at blame in the Spanish versus the English language, and even other cultures where there isn't a specified way to count and there isn't a specified way to do this or to see color, and it actually impacts the way our brains perceive information. And so I have repeatedly come back to that idea that that we've been given this ingrained set of how we think, and that really changes how we interact with other people, and I credit that to you.
Thank you. And she was my student in Spanish 1. So that's an example. Thank you. Gracias, Katie.
We'll take a question over here because we haven't been over here. And he has the mic.
Yeah. Could you tell us what's the connection between enculturation and overcoming racism? I worked yo estaba trabajando en Argentina por muchos años, pero Pero racism, that to me is the original sin on the soul of America. And I'm just wondering, what is your experience of connecting, loving our own culture as a tool of overcoming our racial attitudes?
Well, as I mentioned before, like I am trying myself to avoid the word race because, again, it brings back the idea that there are more races and there is only one. But I don't don't understand exactly the question. How do I agree with you. I think that it has, especially here in America, and I mean North, Center, South, and Caribbean, there is a huge problem when it comes to color and the different shades of colors, and when it comes to discrimination. But I don't understand the question completely. If you can please.
Yeah, just to stand in your own culture. Like I'm Irish, but I worked in South America for almost 20 years. So I'm divided in half Irish and half Hispanic in a way. But I really see that the more we take pride in the diversity of cultures here in America or around the world, the less we'll be judgmental and critical of other cultures. I'm just wondering, from your experience, especially with children, I know racism begins very often as a young child. I have a very sad story. When I worked in South America, in Argentina, in West Virginia, and a little child was being taught to hate blacks. I was in a car with several white people. But how do you, just that sense of pride and yet openness to others? So diversity and unity, how do you combine that, if that's any help to you?
I don't think they are antonymous. Diversity and I don't see why it should be one the opposite of the other. I think diversity is who we are. We are diverse. We are different, the way we look, at least, and the way we think, and the things we eat. But I don't see why we keep forcing this idea that because of that, we should be separated.
Yeah.
So how do I deal with that? Again, teaching my daughter that is ridiculous. And I guess learning from the past. It's, as I mentioned before, we have to begin at the beginning.
I'm going to do one thing before we ask, and I'll come back because I saw someone over here who's had the hand up more than once. But can I get you to read one of your poems?
Yes. You can. You may. Thank you.
You choose.
Okay. Do you want to hear Woman, or do you want to hear The Birds and the Bees?
I'm glad it took you a long time to decide.
I'm going to read Woman then.
Okay.
This house burns very slowly. No matter how many pages run sinister, how many characters insert themselves into my psyche and my pen, how many worlds the muses anticipate for me, or universes my fingers expel. Heritage, the polis, the child, the when is the next one coming? The dust, the pots, the cleaning rag, the husband, bed, apathy, the wrinkles in the faces and on the shirts, dates, appointments, In Spanish, it's the same, citas, citas. Always emerge, subjugating it all. Despite the noise, if I didn't write, the emptiness would lose its return. In my throat, the seeds and the lives would die. But no matter how much of a poet I am, the ridges of my nails always end up smelling of crushed garlic and onions. It does not matter how much fuel I pour. This house burns slowly. Oh, so very slowly. I have to think in a positive manner. I have to. I have no choice. I have to think that we are doing the right thing. I have to think that these events are going to change some perspectives. I have to be positive because the other option, it's just too unbearable. So here or there or anywhere, I know that there are people using their instruments for the right cause. I know that it doesn't only take the government or somebody with the power to change, to make a change. All of us can make changes every single moment of our day, every single time we take a step. We can do it in a positive way or in a negative way. So if we all think that we can do something, I believe we will do something. So I am positive.
And I agree with you. Every action, every reaction, every connection matters. Mm-hmm. And it changes the world. I mean, I see it in this community. Mm-hmm. It changes the world. Please join us upstairs for a reception and a book sale at the top of the hop. And thank you so much.
I'm going to take 2 more minutes because now I want to read The Birds and the Bees.
All right, we got the birds and the bees.
Now I do want to read it. It's like, It's a thing. And I wish I could read it in Spanish because let me tell you, it sounds so much better. It was intended to be written in Spanish, but. Pero, yeah, sí, gracias. Thank you. That is, actually, I'm just going to sit here. All right. So let's do the Spanish one, so you like it first.
But
then you hate it.
We do get our version.
The title is the same. It's in English. I could not find a translation for The Birds and the Bees. There is not a phrase that describes that. Ahora que ha llegado el momento de la verdad, ¿cómo explicarle a Mía que hemos ignorado Gaza y que Gaza no queda en Gaza, sino en cualquier parte? Que la esclavitud es cosa del pasado, claro, pero que aún hay hombres que compran niños y niñas que son vendidas enteras y por partes, que ya no hay linchamientos. Ahora incendiamos sinagogas repletas de creyentes, entramos a cualquier escuela secundaria, intermedia o primaria y ametrallamos contra otras pieles, contra ellos, los malos, los otros. Que bombardeamos casas, ciudades, países completos, jurando fe, promoviendo libertad, pero tras oro negro. Que matamos porque sí, porque podemos, que hemos contaminado su espacio, que sí, que hemos avanzado. Ahora tuiteamos, chateamos, tagueamos, hemos llegado a la luna y más allá. Pero también hemos retrocedido. Hemos perdido la habilidad de hablar, que hemos envejecido, faltos de compasión. Explicarle a mi hija que el sexo es placer es lo de menos. ¿Cómo le explico el resto? And now in English. Now that the moment of truth, has arrived, how do I explain to Mia that we have ignored Gaza? And Gaza is not in Gaza, but anywhere else. That slavery is a thing from the past, sure, but still there are men that buy boys and girls that are sold whole and by pieces. That there is no more public lynching, and we just burn synagogues full of believers and enter any high school, middle, or primary school and machine gun into their skins against them, the bad ones, the others. That we bomb houses, cities, towns, and entire countries, moved by faith, promoting freedom, but behind liquid black gold. That we kill just because we can. That we have polluted their space. That yes, we have advanced. Now we tweak, chat, tag. That we have landed in the moon and seen beyond. But we have also gone backwards. We have lost the ability to talk. We have grown old, lacking compassion. Explaining to my daughter that sex is pleasure, it's not a big deal. How do I explain the rest? Thank you. Now we can go.
We will meet you at the top of the hop.
Gracias.